Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Chamber's virtual version of Business Over Breakfast. I don't know about you, but I sure miss the eggs and sausage that usually accompany this program, and I can't wait until we can offer it as an in-person event again. But for the time being, we're happy to bring you this virtual version. My name is Ann Knutson, and I'm the HR Director and Senior Vice President for Bank 59, formerly known as First Bank Financial Center. I also sit on the Chamber's Board of Directors, and this is my 6th year. I have served as your president in 2018 and 2019, and I'm currently serving as past president and chair of our Business Education Committee. I'd also like to introduce another member of our Board of Directors who helped setting up this webinar. His name is Kevin Brendel and is the owner of Brew City. It is a full-time service technology company. Kevin began his first term this year and sits on several other chamber committees where we call upon his expertise in technology and his perspective as a small business owner to help with community initiatives. Now, I know Kevin is a little shy and he probably won't poke his head in this video, but rest assured he is here with us today. So like many of you, the Chamber has had to transition our business and adjust services to support our members, and this program happens to be one example. At the onset of Safer at Home order, the Chamber's Board of Directors formed a COVID-19 task force to strategize how we could support our members during this economic slowdown. We had a lot to do in a short period of time and tapped into every committee to help. Chamber Board of Directors, committees, and staff, including, of course, Sherry and Chris, have focused on supporting and promoting our member businesses through support local marketing campaigns and using technology for virtual meetings, networking, and webinars. Other committees have been working on our events to either modify or reschedule them, keeping the health and safety of our community in mind. And I am very, very excited to announce that we are opening the Oconomowoc Farmers Market this weekend as a result of these efforts. We know there are challenging times ahead as businesses reopen, and our board, committees, and Sherry and Chris, our staff, are still working on your behalf. In addition to planning future programming, we have been personally reaching out to our members to ask for your input so we can focus on strategies to continue to support you in the coming months. We also want to thank all of you for your efforts to see our community through this very challenging time. We have seen incredible resilience in a time of uncertainty, creative approaches to service and deliver, and many acts of support and unity during this pandemic. So now on to the star of our show today, Mayor Magnus. Our honored guest this morning is another example of strong leadership in a time of crisis. We were just talking, and he's been in his position now a whole 3.5 weeks. So what a way to have to enter into a new role. Even before taking office, Mayor Bob Magnus was working behind the scenes to form the City of Oconomowoc's COVID-19 response and revitalization task force, aptly named Oconomowoc Responds. He will share more about this initiative along with his vision for Oconomowoc for the remainder of 2020 and beyond. A little bit more about the mayor. Mayor Magnus is a doctor of veterinary medicine and is an accomplished senior executive and thought leader with over 30 years in the veterinary healthcare and business consulting industries. He is the founder and past CEO of Wisconsin Equine Clinic and Hospital, which is a full-service, nationally renowned equine referral hospital and ambulatory practice that was established in 1992. Fast forward to 2005, he founded Equine Business Management Strategies, LLC, an executive business education program for the equine veterinary industry. He then joined the business consulting from Oculus Insights, LLP, a global consulting firm to the veterinarian profession, offering full operational management services, executive coaching, business project consulting, and animal health industry business-to-business collaboration. And as all of you are aware, he was elected mayor of the city of Oconomowoc on April 7th of 2020. So I'd like you to join me in welcoming Mayor Bob Magnus. Mayor, thank you so much for being with us this morning. It's an honor to have you here, and I will turn things over to you.
Thank you very much, Ann, and thank you, Chamber members. What a really nice introduction, and all those things sound really good, but at the end of the day, we as a city have to deliver and provide services and support for you. I have a small presentation for you. You'll see some slides moving forward to try to give you an idea, learn a little bit more about me, and move forward. So those are being keyed up for you right now. It's a small group of slides, and then we're going to open it up and have a conversation. What you'll learn about me is one thing, is that we have to implement positive changes in our community. And to do that, we need to work together. And as Ann, you had mentioned, our goal was to try to create those resources, create that connectivity. So let's jump into just a few slides. It's not moving forward. Little technical difficulty. There we go. Just want to share with you what we're going to talk about today. I'll be short, I'll be brief. You'll have pretty pictures and images to look at. And at the end of the day, we have to get to the meat and potatoes of what we want to discuss and how we can help you and also address the needs that you have. So I'll tell you a little bit about my story. City plans. Talk a little bit more in detail, Ann, about the task force. Our focus on where we're moving, and then leave it wide open for questions. We've received quite a few questions from you, members of the Chamber of Commerce, and our goal is to address those. I also am fortunate to have our Economic Director, Mr. Bob Duffy, here in the room with us. So if there's something I can answer or we need a greater level of detail, Bob is here to help answer those questions for you. So we'll see, there we go. So on the screen are just some pictures and images. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Sheboygan. We moved out and purchased a dairy farm in Elkhart Lake when I was a kid. So I grew up on a farm and went on to veterinary school right out of school at the University of Wisconsin River Falls. I'm a Wisconsin kid. My wife and I moved after veterinary school for 1 year. Did a large animal internship at the University of Tennessee, came back to Oconomowoc area, worked for another veterinary practice for 4 years, and as you'll learn, I'm an entrepreneurial at heart, started our own practice called Wisconsin Equine Clinic, something that we're very, very proud of. As an entrepreneur, my wife and I started our business together out of our house with 2 toddlers. One was 2 years old, the other was 4. I'm a proud father of 2 daughters that are now no longer toddlers. Both are very, very productive community members, but unfortunately not here in Oconomowoc. They both live in Chicago. You can see some images and pictures on your screen. What I wanted to share with you in some of those pictures is the importance to me of having balance. And right now things are really chaotic. We've all experienced it. People are in pain. Businesses are in pain. And we need to try to get balance back into our community. The image that you see with all the circles about balance is how I view life. And so this is an interesting thing. This is also new for you, Mr. Duffy. If you look at that center circle, it's called balance and happiness. And the way I view life is that circle is always moving in those other 4 quadrants. And the key to success and happiness, in my view, and what I'm trying to help and bring those skills to our city, are to figure out where you are at any point in time, because there is no way that you can have that image be true. There are certain times when you're focusing on your business. There are certain times that are really needed to have a spiritual part of your life. Family is incredibly important to me, and that is my #1 concern as I've moved forward throughout the years. A little bit more about me. I'm an outdoors person. I love to hike, backpack. There are times I take off with my dog and go for several days in the mountains and camp. Yeah, I sleep on the floor. I sleep on the ground. Found a really cool air mattress, so that's helpful. But I like to be outside. Growing up in Elkhart Lake, I was fortunate with the farm that I also am a very avid person in water sports. I've competitively raced on Oconomowoc Lake, here on Lac La Belle. I love the outdoors, water skiing, snow skiing. All of those things are things that I really enjoy. But what's important is, frankly, what I can do for you, how I can try to connect more with you. I've just met Kevin for the first time. I didn't know about Kevin's business, and that brings to light how I want to learn more about every one of your businesses. I'm very engaged. My door is open, and I look forward to getting to know all of you better. But let's move on to some cool things. So what's going on? Our plans were really, when we took office, was really simple. We had to address the immediate needs of COVID, and we had to keep the city operating. I'm really proud of what the city staff has done and their strategic approach that Mayor Knoll put in place before I came into office. And that's to provide all of those services for you, but also if somebody got sick, what was going to happen? And this team has done an incredible job doing that. Oops, great, sorry, a little technical. So before I came into office, it was apparent that we did not have the resources to try to meet the needs of our city residents, of our businesses, and others in the community. And so from day one, after the election results, we started to put together a task force. And I hated the word task force because you hear about all these task forces that don't do anything. And you learn from me, I'm an implementer. I like to get things done. The task force was put together to be an action-driven group of people. And so the design of the task force is what I'd like to share with you today, so you understand why it was put together and how it functions, and more importantly, how you can get involved. So the task force was actually divided into 3 different pillars. One focusing on business, the other focusing on the residents in our community, and the other focusing on the nonprofits and the church-based or worship-based community, because we have a lot of needs when this outbreak and pandemic happened. So what we did is we designed really small, high-functioning committees, and we call those pillars. And leading those folks are Bob Duffy, who's actually overseeing the whole task force, but is focusing heavily on the business segment. We have Jason Curtis, who's focusing on the needs of the residents. Our people are suffering behavioral health issues, can't pay their utility bill, problems with childcare, problems with going to work. Where are the resources? There's such a flood of information. Our goal is to try to connect all of that. And we're really excited to also bring on Pat Newdecker to lead in trying to keep the communication going with the nonprofits. And it's something that we don't always think about as a city. So the nonprofits are also a business. They receive money and they give out money. And so at different cycles within a nonprofit, they may need help in fundraising, or they may have a lot of resources to help us distribute their resources to those in need. So how did this all came together? There are anywhere from 4 to 8 people on each one of these committees with really, really strong leaders in our community driving those. Then the design was said, okay, how can we get more people involved? And that's what we call partners. Anybody that has a resource, anyone that has a need, anyone that can help support, your point of contact is Bob Duffy. And what he will do is help shift you into the right pillar. And from that correct pillar, we can provide and share resources and communication. What I saw happening before the election was completed is a lot of wonderful people doing great things. Sounds nice, but it was fragmented. And we all think we know what we need. We all think, I need this, I need that. But what is the fact of the matter is we really don't. We have guesses, and we're probably 60 to 70% of our guesses are there. But where do those needs really rely? So under the leadership of Mr. Duffy, what we did is we put together a very robust survey that went out to the business owners, to different community members, nonprofits, And we're in that process of analyzing all of that data so that we can try to really target those needs to where they can be best utilized. But again, think of the task force as a communication, as a networker to help the Chamber of Commerce, to help DOBA, to help our community, our residents, so that we can actually be efficient at what we do. Remember what I said at the beginning, we want a task force that does something, and that takes time. I remember one of the questions that you submitted to me was, what is one of our biggest challenges, or how am I doing with bureaucracy being an entrepreneurial businessman? It's a challenge. Very frankly, it's a challenge. But it doesn't mean no. What it does is that we have to find ways to do things quicker, and there are ways to do things quicker, and our team has been doing that. And in the weeks and the months ahead, you're going to see a lot more of their impact. So let's take a look at the next slide. To help you understand, the task force is not just about these next couple days. We are looking at these 90 days as what we call the now, but this task force is also to bring other resources for you as business owners here in the community. We had a very vibrant downtown and a very vibrant system outside of the downtown area within our city limits, that whole area. We will have that again. What we need to do is work together on all spectrums to try to get that vitality back. But it isn't just get it back. During periods of stress, during periods of crisis in any business, and a city is no different, there are opportunities. What we want to do is seize on those opportunities and make things even better. How do we increase efficiency? How do we pivot? In the introduction, Anne, was wonderful about how people are pivoting and the entrepreneurial and the innovative things that are happening. Let's share that information. Let's help each other move forward. So as the initial goal of the task force is to be operational, to deliver for our community over this calendar year. Where it goes beyond that, we're not sure. A lot of things are uncertain, and what we want to do is hit our deliverables very, very quickly. Bob has deliverables that I've shared with him, and we want to try to do that for you as well. But again, this task force isn't just for the next few weeks. It's for a longer period of time. And that goes into bringing new resources, new innovation to our city for months and actually years ahead. So please look at that task force as a long-standing agenda, how that morphs, how that works into different committees, how we engage with your chamber. Those are all open items. I'm an out-of-the-box thinker, and I love the ideas. I've met with several of you, and it's really has been an enjoyable experience. And I will meet with anybody that asks. I want to be there for you, and the city definitely does. And there's so much that they're doing behind the scenes that I didn't realize coming into this office some of the things that were going on. And what we're going to try to do is open the transparency and bring more to you as members. So our focus is very straightforward. Number one was to get this task force going in, and we did that before we even started this process. We have to maintain the city's services based on legal deliverables from the state of Wisconsin, and we're doing that. Whether people like what's happening, whether they don't like what's happening, I put my hand up and I said, I am going to protect the Constitution of the United States, and I'm going to protect the laws of the state of Wisconsin, and I will do that. I will not deviate. Other things that we're doing is we are working on financial projections, because as you have done, whether your business is down 50%, whether you're among the few that your business is actually up, or maybe you had to completely shut down your businesses. The city is no different. The city behind the scenes, all the department heads, our financial director, they're all working on projections. And all those projections are to say, what happens to city revenue? What do we do with city expenses so that we can keep our taxes low, we can be fiscally conservative to deliver and continue to make this a great place, and with the task force, bring in as many opportunities as we can to grow our city, but grow it in a smart way. And you've heard that in some of the campaign things, and it's a kind of a kitschy little political tagline, but actually means something to me. And we've had a lot of growth. We've had a lot of development. How can we do it in more of an organized fashion? How can we take what we've already created and make it better? So I'm a weird guy, and you're gonna learn this. I'm a big picture, big idea person. I love the details, and the key part is the implementation. And the word implementation is a big driving force for me. And I'm going to do my best to try to deliver for you. So moving forward, I'm going to share a couple quick projects, and then we'll move on to questions and answers. So one project that I didn't want to have dropped through the cracks is a lot of work that Mayor Nold has done, is to help develop options for developing Olympia. Council Tuesday night, actually approved what's called a pre-development agreement to go ahead and look at options and develop the analysis using numbers, factual information, to see if this is a good option for the city. So we've partnered in a fashion with the developer, Vanguard Associates, or partners, to look at that. And the images that you'll see up there is the area that's in focus. And to do that creates infrastructure, creates opportunities for a long-term strategy. There's gonna be a lot more to come. No decisions have been made, but one decision has been made, to correct myself, is that we're looking at this using sound data and information, and it doesn't cost the city money to do that. So two things that I think are win-wins in that process. The next thing that I know is near and dear to many's heart is what's happening with the parking development between Wisconsin Avenue and the depot. And you have it highlighted in a rough sketch on your screen. 2 weeks ago, a little over 2 weeks ago, Council approved the funds to do the final design and analysis. So this is in the queue. It was approved by the previous council, and the goal and the objective is to have that parking structure, that parking renovation completed this calendar year. So the design is not completed. You will be presented as community members with options, and those options will then be defined, decided upon, and will move forward. This is another example of challenges that you have moving from private business to working in the city government. My first thought was, well, let's make this simple. We're in COVID. Things are horrible. Let's just get that bloody thing done now. It'll have the least impact on the people in the community. Why can't we do it now? We can't. Do I want to? Yes. What I can say is that once this has gone through the proper process and input from the community and the residents, we're going to do it as smart as we can, because I remember when downtown Wisconsin Avenue was rebuilt, oh my goodness, I can't imagine the financial impact that had on some of the businesses here. We have to do this in a smart manner so that it has the least impact on our community. And yes, businesses are the obvious, but it's also the people. It's also how do they walk, how do they communicate. And as we start to try to ramp up, hopefully, some of our events, what's the impact there? So that gives you a quick little update there on what's happening. You know, I'd like to just say we live in an incredible community. I've lived here for over 30 years. My kids have gone through the Oconomowoc Public School. I was a soccer dad who never played soccer a day in his life. I was a basketball dude. And I spent time trying to figure out how to do that. I'm here to help you. I'm going to figure out ways, and I'm going to be creative in those ways. And will I push the envelope when it comes to process? Absolutely. And I think that's the best thing for our city. And I'm really excited about that moving forward. So I just put in a couple, some bullet points on some of the questions that you had as members. But I think we're going to have more of a conversation, which I think is more personal, and I'm happy to share those with you. So I'm going to turn this back over to Ann. Thank you for listening to my long-winded discussion, and I hope that gives you a better snapshot of who I am. So Ann, it's all yours.
All right, very good.
What questions do you have?
I want to first and foremost say it wasn't long-winded. I think our entire audience is really pleased that you were able to share as much information as you did. And I think for all of us, we lose sight of really getting to know someone on a personal level and the importance of that with building relationships.
Yeah.
And I think you got us off to a great start with that. And you're a family guy and you're a business owner, and you're really in touch with the community. So thank you for that. I'm going to start more general with the questions that I have and then become more narrow and specific. So I want to start with this question, which is, how do you feel your background in business is really going to help you in your role as mayor?
Oh, that's a great question. And in any business that you work in, you have the same challenges of working with people. I view the city government as another business, but with a lot of different rules. So as an executive in our industry, I've run multiple board meetings. I'm the chair of currently of the largest imaging company in North America for dogs, cats, and horses that's based in Texas. I do a lot of different things with groups of people, and that really has helped us move things quickly. It may not feel that way if you're a resident, but there's a lot that's been done. And the business skills that I bring to the table, I'm trying not to sound arrogant, I think are what we need right now. And to give the audience a little bit better perspective, I still currently oversee and manage several other companies. And the goal is to bring the team together. And the team is, one part of the team are aldermen, great group of people. The other team are administrative staff. And trying to empower them and put them in a position to be successful and hit deliverables is what I'm all about. I think the challenge for the city and the city staff, who I think are spectacular, is that I have high expectations. And as Mr. Duffy has seen, I asked for deliverables, I asked for timelines, I asked for budgets. And I think those are fair requests to have. So those are the things that I am excited to bring, those skill sets to the city to help us grow and help us get out of this, because my vision is really, really pretty simple. We're a great city. We have an opportunity. This isn't a negative. We have an opportunity to make this place a lot better. Mm-hmm. I want to be part of that, and I want us to be ahead of that. It's easy to throw things out or build a building here or do different things here, but it's a short-term agenda with a long-term strategy. And I'm a strategic guy. And those are the things that I hope to help us. Did I answer your question, or would you like something a little different?
No, it definitely answered the question, although I do have a follow-up to what you said. I think it's the natural HR person in me that has these types of questions. One of the things that you mentioned and referenced is you're managing and overseeing multiple businesses. Mm-hmm. And quite honestly, the role that you have stepped into right now, I think we can all agree is a full-time position. Mm-hmm. So how do you balance all of that? How do you dedicate the time that you need towards your businesses, but also remain focused on your role as mayor of the city?
Well, it's a great question. One, I didn't expect it to be a complete full-time job when I put my nomination papers in.
Sure.
But one of the tipping points for me as a candidate was, could I deliver and could I be here for probably more time than I allotted, because you never know. And so what I did is I spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out how I could do that with the other businesses as well. And we have an incredible team in our consulting company. And so I reached out to my two partners, one who lives in Amsterdam and Holland, the other who lives outside of Toronto in Canada, two incredible guys. And I said, hey, this is what I want to do. I'm at a point in my life where I can give back to my community, and I'm excited about doing that. Let's look at the impact it has on our consulting business. And so we did a lot of preparation to make sure that I could deliver in that component. Now, to be very candid, these last 3.5 weeks, or even more than that, and the next few weeks, it still is a full-time job. There's no question. And what I've made the commitment is that we will deliver, and the city will deliver for our community, and they are. So it was a struggle, and I couldn't turn those nomination papers in unless I could allocate that time. Mm-hmm. I'm a benchmark numbers guy. And so I did a spreadsheet, and I said, how am I going to allocate my time, and how am I going to do this? So I figured out how much time I thought I was going to spend. I talked to other mayors asked them how much time they spent. Then I doubled it. And then it's actually been doubled since then. So that's what we're doing. And I think Bob can attest to as well that I've pretty much been at City Hall every single day. I come in on weekends, trying to get up to speed very quickly. The other thing that I did, which worked out, but maybe wasn't the smartest move from a campaign standpoint, is from day one, all I did is spend time learning about the staff, the people, the systems. My goal was to not really start campaigning until the beginning of March. And I really didn't. I did some things, but what I wanted to do is try to hit the ground running. And if I didn't have my act together, then it would take me 3 to 6 months to have anything that I could actually do. Yeah. And so January and February, that's what I did. I went to every committee meeting, every council meeting, everything I could find. I interviewed people. I reached out to all the current aldermen. I met with them, did everything I possibly could to be prepared. Then COVID hit, and I go, okay, I guess I'm going to lose the election. Then we just pivoted and tried to get our message out to tell people who I am. And I was fortunate that I have the confidence of the residents to take on this role, and I just don't want to disappoint. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who you are, it's what you do. It doesn't matter what you say, it's how you deliver. And so I want to do my best that my words are aligned with the actions that happen. And that's really who I am.
Very, very helpful. That reminds me of a book that I read. It's called The First 90 Days. I don't know if you've ever heard of that book, but what you talked about in terms of before you even stepped into your role is that you were doing what most individuals do when they first step into their position. So it takes 90 days to be able to ramp up. So for the fact that you did all of that work, took the time, the effort to understand what the needs are, build those relationships, that's why you're up and running so quickly. So thank you for that. That's
I'll be very candid, we're not doing it quick enough. So that can tell you a little bit about me and probably some of the challenges of private sector versus public. I went into it with my eyes wide open, but we're going to continue to push the envelope. But in one of the things that I did very early on, before I even started to consider looking at this position, is I wanted to see who the people were in our city, our staff, from the management to every different level. And I spent a lot of time doing that. And I did not have the capacity to rebuild a company, which is what I do for a living. There's a lot, and you as an HR specialist fully understand that. And that's what I've done. I wanted to go in if I could go in with a highly group of professionals that really could deliver, then I felt I could be effective because this is my home. I'm not leaving. Some people might want me to, but, but I'm not leaving. And what I want to do is create something that's special. So when I looked at the caliber of people we have here, I don't know that our community really recognizes the caliber of people that we have here in staff at multitudes of levels. And I looked at the chamber, and I looked at DOBA, and I looked at all these different people. Now, how can we bring things together, be more efficient, and deliver even more? When you look at the personal sacrifices so many of our business owners are sharing, when we look at potentials for industry, when we look at how people communicate, or in many places that I found do not communicate, how do our school systems connect with planning at the city and states site? I have plans that are already in action that we're working on now behind the scenes that we'll be happy to share once they're solidified. So that's kind of a long answer to a really short question. So please cut me off at any point.
No, this is great. This is very helpful, and no doubt the information that our membership wants to hear. So thank you for that. Let me switch gears a little bit and ask you, what are you looking most forward to in your role as mayor?
To drive through the city and smile. Plain and simple, because the city is not about buildings. It's really about the people. And I've traveled the world. I've been in many communities. And the more I've traveled, the more I recognize, and that this place is really special, the more I want to be here. And Right now we're suffering, we're hurting. It's obvious. So it's a quirky answer probably to your question, but that's what makes me happy. It's that we're able to deliver and that we can get back to where we were. But again, as I mentioned earlier, back is not good enough for me. And so where are the opportunities that lie? It doesn't mean that we have to develop and build huge things. It means how do we become more functionally efficient as a community? Big isn't always better. And as I looked at this community, I saw a lot of great, wonderful things happening. And it's a typical business that's in a growth phase. And most of those get messed up. I don't want to mess up what's been started by a lot of wonderful people over the last few years. And I don't want to be that business that starts to fail because we get lazy.
A lot of work ahead, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Excuse me, the next question that I have, as a true HR professional, you focus on some of the positive things, but now I have to go down the path of, what are the things that keep you up at night?
Things that keep me up at night are people. And that's pretty, it sounds like a pretty loaded one talking to an HR person. I had a few jokes about HR before we came live on this, but I won't share those.
I can fire some really good questions at you then.
So what keeps me up are the people, because it's the people in fear. Because as a business owner, and I'm a small business owner, it's great to be open, but open doesn't mean that we're going to have profitability, doesn't mean we're going to have volume, doesn't mean we're going to have margin. None of those things are going to happen unless we can reduce the fear and we can get people more comfortable in our city. So where we are today, it's really simple. If people just act appropriately, we will be fine. And we will get through this. It'll look different. But if people have bad behavior because of misinterpretation of data and information on the medical side, then we're going to continue to have struggles. And it's going to hurt our businesses, it's going to hurt our community. So that's more of a long answer. That's really what keeps me up at night.
Yeah, sure.
And my wife telling me what I should do. That's a joke. She does not. I might get in trouble for that one.
So I guess as a follow-up to that, I think we can all agree emotions are running really, really high at this point in time. And there's a lot of very strong opinions about what needs to happen, when it needs to happen, how quickly it needs to happen. And boiling it down to a really simple example, let's say you have two citizens, but they have very competing types of demands. How do you prioritize what you address? And I guess just even in your day-to-day job, how do you prioritize these
Well, it's
things?
a great loaded question, so well done. And the problem is there's not a simple answer to that. It depends upon the issue. No matter what we do as a city, you're going to have people on whatever spectrum upset. And it still comes back to people asking good questions, us as elected officials listening, so that we can prioritize those aspects. So on the simple part, I have a spreadsheet. I'm a spreadsheet guy. I have a spreadsheet with all my priorities. And I keep moving them around to find out which one should go for it. And I told you at day one, number one is the task force, because I can hit deliverables, short and long term. Number two is city services and financially where we are, because if we don't continue to provide that, we are going to be delayed. And I don't want to be the city that's delayed. I want to be the city that's proactive in a safe manner in a 45-mile radius. I want to be the poster child for the community. I want to be the poster child for the country. Yeah, do I have crazy goals? Of course. But if you don't do those and you don't develop that culture within your city, within your staff, within your community, we will fail. And to me, failure is just not an option.
Very good. We really didn't rehearse this, but this is a great lead into the next question that I have, which is, now I'm becoming a little bit more narrow with the questions that I have. And bear with me for a moment, pandemic focused, which is how will you communicate what is happening within the city? How will the residents, how will the businesses know what's going on?
And that's a great question, because that's really important. There's so much out there. It's actually confusing. And you just basically gave me the answer. It's a task force. It's Oconomowoc, the city of Oconomowoc, being that connector. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand up, walk safely over, and have our lead on the task force, Bob Duffy, tell you about that, because communication is key. Also, our setup to build this foundation for communication should have taken us 12, 14 hours. In the real world, took us a week. Not because of effort, not because of energy, because of systems that we have to make sure are done properly and legally. And so I'm going to let Bob answer that question.
Perfect.
I think I've given him a few seconds to prepare his answer, but he should know it anyway. So I'm going to stand up. And Bob, if you want to come over and address the audience, that would be great.
Well, good morning.
Good morning. Great to have you here, Bob.
Great to be here.
Awesome.
So as it relates to communications, as Mayor Magnus said, the task force was established really to be that unifier between the business community, the residents, and the organizations that make this community special. Having the ability to try to ramp that up has been fairly rapid. But again, how do we communicate and gather information with people has been what that strategic action piece that the mayor alluded to that we wanted to be right up front with. So I think from the city and as an organizational perspective, we tried to do as much as we could early on by setting up the business COVID-19 resource page, surveying the business community early on. Then comes the task force. And again, each of those different pillars, as was talked about, I mean, if we all work together as an engine, we can solve some of those problems that we're experiencing, assist one another. That's the important piece. So since then, we built a separate web page for the city. And as the mayor alluded to, does it take a little bit longer in the public sector? Oftentimes it does. And more of that's a capacity side of things in our organization. There's people who wear many hats, who have to continue to prioritize what those priorities are. Again, everybody wants action, and again, how those priorities shift, how those continue to happen, and again, reliance upon each other in an organization to be able to move that forward, because not any one individual can solve the issue or solve the problem or communicate with the whole community. That's why the task force and all of what we're trying to do by creating those communication channels, surveying the community, and then creating the outputs are important. And then having those vehicles to be able to disseminate the information. Obviously, we use the chamber to disseminate information. We use other organizations, the school district, again, so trying to build that resource pool and partners, because again, we are all in this together.
Well, I applaud you for that. And I think that the key piece that you referenced is you're getting input from our businesses, from the citizens, and finding out how they want to receive the information, when they want to receive it, and then doing your best to deliver based on the majority of the responses that are coming in. So thank you so much for those efforts. Very good. I can throw it back to the mayor if I'd like to.
It's up to you, depends on what your next question is.
Well, let's see. I would actually think that either one of you could answer this, which is, how can we, as businesses and residents, support our local businesses? What are the things that we can do right now that we're what I call post safer at home?
Well, and again, I can answer it, or the mayor can follow up. Obviously, there was a lot of encouragement both by the chamber organization, the city organization, of what people could do during that time, whether it's promote businesses amongst one another, customers and community members supporting businesses through curbside, through purchasing of gift cards. All of those things were very important. Collectively, obviously, now we can continue to patronize and promote those businesses. And lastly, I think what's most important and how we need to move forward is that responsibility factor. I think part of the, and I don't want to say fear, I think part of the questions that are out there that even the city can't answer is how come or why. Each business, I think, is going to choose their own level of how they want to reopen. We very quickly, as an organization, And again, as the mayor talked about data and information, very quickly met with our experts on the safety side, tried to collaborate with the overall arching communities around us, and recognize there are best practices and guidelines out there for each section of business. Tried to communicate that. And really it comes down to the individual business or entity to say, when am I ready? When am I ready to open my door? Have I done everything I can do to protect my business, my employees, and my customers as I welcome them into the store? That's going to be different for each one of those organizations. And then we as a community need to respect that as well. We can't, if we don't want a spike in this situation, we need to be responsible for ourselves. We need to be responsible to ensure that if we're responsible to ourselves and our family and those around us, we won't have a resurgence. We won't have a little hiccup in this where we have to go back to where we were even 2 weeks ago. Every 2 weeks fast to change, because again, everything happens so abruptly. There was frame or guidance or direction. There was none, all within a series of hours. For anybody to be able to pivot and anybody to be able to address that quickly is a really hard task to ask. And I think people are going to choose to be comfortable when they want to be ready, both businesses and the community.
Maybe summed up as responsibility and accountability, two major pieces with that. So very helpful. Thank you for that. All right. We'll put Mayor back in the hot seat.
Well, I better do this.
No, I agree with Bob's comments. I'm kind of a simple guy, and it comes down to how do we reduce fear and how do we get people to spend money to get people working. So there are a lot of businesses are doing very well. So we tend to focus sometimes too much on the negative. And how do we create that environment through the responsibility and the accountability that Bob had discussed? So,
thank you for adding to that. One more pandemic-related question before we shift gears. Of course, I have now the clearing of the throat necessary, so that's wonderful.
Absolutely.
So can you address any ideas or options for child-based service businesses as reopening begins? That was a question that we received from one of our members.
And child-based services, when I read the question, I needed more context to understand what it means. So my brain is going about 3 or 4 different things. So if you could help clarify or pinpoint it for me. So I'm going to put you back on the hot seat.
I would agree that my mind goes in a few different directions. Maybe if you want to hit 2 of those, and then we can work through that. So
you're going to ditch this. You're not going to just. Very good, very good. I got it. No, there are a lot of different aspects when it comes to the youth, and so it can be programming. It can be how do we have the different activities within the city. It can be childcare, because how do we do childcare in a pandemic situation? I mean, it's being done around the country, so there are models. So it's a broad-based question I have a hard time answering because I don't know which path to go down. What I can say is that's part of our task force mission, is to identify those issues. And Bob has identified those issues in several of the responses. And so we're trying to create answers, but very categorically, I don't have an answer for you. I can tell you we're working on it, but that's kind of a cheap way to say it, but it's the truth.
Would it be then for someone who has those types of questions, who do they reach out to?
Bob.
They reach out to Bob.
Yeah.
Bob is
so kind of the message take home for everybody is we've worked and we've looked at Bob's schedule, and all the things that he does for this community and the city are unbelievable. To be that point person for the task force is frankly impossible in his current job role. And I've worked with the city administrator, and we've helped to adjust some of his roles so that he can deliver for all of us and for the chamber members. So he is really the point person. Please be kind. He's getting blasted, and he's responding to everybody, and that's a wonderful thing. That also leads into another topic, if I may have the liberty.
Of course.
So part of the task force, one of our goal and agenda is when I went to a tourism committee and I looked at the different things on the marketing standpoint for our community, we're building all this stuff and things seem really great. What I want to do is try to help the city build on its brand, define its marketing strategy, and really have actionable things that are going to help you as business owners, but also help residents be informed on things they can do in our city. So what we have launched, and it was approved by the council a couple of weeks ago, is we have put out an ad, and I know that we reached out to your group as well, for hiring a marketing or an economic development intern. Well, we have the applications closed, and we're actually going through all those applications now. And in June, we hope to have a really nice, highly qualified person to give us an additional resource that's going to help our community. Because it's no fun making a phone call, it's no fun as a resident or business owner reaching out and then there's silence. Or you get a canned response. We're working hard not to do that, and we're trying to be as responsive as possible. But he's the guy.
Awesome. Great to know. It's interesting too, is I've been going through these questions and excuse me, it is allergies, everyone. I promise you it is allergies.
And we haven't hugged, so we're good.
Exactly. In terms of what we typically do for these, what we call State of the City, business over breakfast, we can finally get to that, and we only have a few minutes, although you've addressed certainly a few things through your presentation. More specifically, want to talk a little bit about that baseball field near Wisconsin Harley-Davidson. So what can you tell us about that?
It's still good to go, but I personally have not reached out to them. Bob, have you reached out to them recently?
I have a week ago.
Okay.
Can they hear me, or do I need to move over there?
You should get closer to the mic.
Why don't you get closer to the mic, and then we want to make sure that you get
reaching out to them. Obviously, the biggest challenge was a lot of things stopped when COVID-19 happened. I can say that they do still have. They had to delay their closing until later this summer. But they do still intend to continue to move forward the project when they're able to close on the land and get state-approved plans for the actual stadium itself.
Thank you, Bob.
Bob, you might want to stay here too for this next question. Again, from one of our residents asked, are there expectations about the summer event schedule and how limited it may be?
Yeah, I mean, I can answer that one because we've been working hard on that.
Thank you.
The Park and Rec Department is just working overtime. They're working overtime with their city administrator, and we have put together a phased approach for all the different events. Unfortunately, and what's really sad is all the events have been canceled. And when I came in office, the number one thing I said is we do not cancel anything until the last minute, if possible, because there are too many unknowns. I want to have all the events that we have. I want to have all the programming we have, but we have to do it safely. So what we've been doing is we've been every few weeks putting a press release out that I know your group has received. And part of that is in the Parks and Recs as we start to open the city, as we start to open the parks, as we start to open the programming. You know, can you play baseball? Can you do soccer? All of these different, and those are all detailed out in that press release and continue to evolve. So as long as we still see the same trends we're seeing now, we're in this wonderful little bubble, I call it, in Oconomowoc from a health standpoint. And being a health professional, we have to keep ourselves in that bubble. And if we behave well, we will. And we're trying to get as many things launched and going forward. And great job, Chamber, for rocking on the farmers market. I'm so excited about that. And behind the scenes, I've been kind of the jerk pushing to say, hey, let's get this thing rolling, and how can we do it safely? So those things are coming out. When it comes to specifics, they continue to change, and our Park and Rec department will have more press releases and more information. When a press release, before it goes to anybody, it actually goes out to your group. So we have different groups, and you guys get it right away.
Awesome.
And as long as you're transferring it in the appropriate manner, you as business owners should know well before the public knows. Is that a fair assessment or comment, Bob?
Yeah, I mean, internally the city, obviously, I think to additionally address the event question itself, what often's not realized is the city doesn't run the multitude of events. We as a community have been very fortunate in our culture of people who want to come together and celebrate. The challenge that we have is every organization in this community comes forward and puts on an event or a parade or a gathering. And obviously in these times of uncertainty and the issue of, again, uncertainty, fear, gathering, all of those things, organizations are struggling, and I believe trying to be responsible by recognizing what are the CDC guidelines, what are we doing to be responsible to protect ourselves, our vendors, our participants, and volunteers, because all of these things are done volunteers, and then weighing those decisions in deciding what they want to do, how they can do it or can't do a certain event in this community. Obviously, 2020 is going to be a different time because of what we're all going through, and with that uncertainty or with when guidelines are relaxed, unknown. That is the biggest challenge the community is going to need to wrestle with, but also respect that these are volunteers that are putting it on, who may or may not be putting their own health at risk by trying to do some things. If that one thing, it's a call to action to our community. If you have the passion to do it, volunteer for some of these things.
Absolutely.
Because sustainability of these types of activities and events, which we enjoy, which make Oconomowoc special, is really the core. And that's what's necessary to be able to continue to sustain them into the future, in 2021, so they don't just go away.
So your call to action is get involved.
Yeah.
Get involved.
Well, and to jump in, a news flash, I want fireworks for the 4th of July and for Independence Day. I have told staff that give me options. How can we do it safely? What's the right way to do it? I don't have an answer yet, but we have some great people, and we have some other elected officials that are trying to look for different options that we can do in the proper way, because we learned yesterday the 4th of July parade is canceled. Again, not a city-run event. Memorial Day parade was canceled. Again, not a city-run event. So everything that we can try to do to bring a little love, to bring a little hope, and to continue to keep our community together, we're trying to do that. And thanks, Bob and our team, for really taking the charge. But I know we just have a few minutes left, so
Yes, we do.
Go for it,
Well,
Ann.
really, just to, I would
give
say
me that loaded question. I'm ready.
to wrap up, here's the final question that I have. Is there anything else that you would like to offer or share that we have not already discussed this morning?
We have not already discussed. Good one. You got me. I'm going to share something personal.
Wonderful.
So something that we do at dinner every night, and our family has done this for years. Something silly, something goofy, but it helps you take pauses to what's going on around you, and helps you be a little bit more in the present. So at every dinner, we go around the table and we ask each other, what did you learn today? Or how did you make the world a better place? The second question is really hard. But the first question can be silly, it can be goofy, it can be something really important, but it really takes you down. And with all of us staying at home, with all of our family home, try it. Now there is a rule. You cannot pass, because somebody will try to do that, I guarantee it. And again, because it doesn't have to be profound, it can be profound, it can be silly. It's really a fun thing to do with family. And family and community is Oconomowoc. I could have never raised, my wife and I could have never raised our 2 daughters without our community. And so that's my message to go home.
It's a great way to wrap up.
Yes.
Thank you so very much for your
welcome.
time this morning. And I would imagine everyone would agree that this has been very helpful. You heard from the mayor, you heard from Bob Duffy, that if there are questions, reach out. Understand we don't have all the answers at this point in time. We meaning as though I'm part of your group right now. I feel like that we've been talking together, but the reality is just be patient, be kind and understanding as the team works through this. So thank you again so much.
May I have one last word?
Of course.
So what I would like is your bank to give us more free money with no strings attached. and to help our community more.
Bank 5-9 loves the Oconomowoc community, and we'll do whatever we can to help out.
Great
for
response.
sure,
Thank
for
you so
sure.
much. You're a great partners in our community and our city, and thank you.
Thank you. So just a couple of announcements that I would be remiss if I didn't conclude our Business Over Breakfast with this. We have two very much anticipated events every year in June. I have some bad news and some good news. The bad news is they aren't taking place in June. The good news is they're being rescheduled. So our annual Golf Classic has been rescheduled to September 28th. The Golf Committee is meeting in early June, so watch for more details and information in the coming weeks. And then our Yellow Brick Road 5K and a Kids Fun Run has been rescheduled to October 3rd. So make sure to save the date for a beautiful fall run. Again, that's October 3rd. And then we have upcoming events. We've already talked about the Summer's Farmers Market, which is opening up this coming weekend. There, rest assured, a lot of practices that have been put in place so that everyone can feel safe going through the farmers market, but enjoy what they've been accustomed to really enjoying over the past several years. As a reminder, the farmers market is across the street from the community center and across the street from Bank 5-9 in the parking lot. We also have some things we're going virtual with. The first is Women in Business Over Coffee. So join us on Friday, June 5th from 8 until 9 a.m. And we have designed this with virtual breakout rooms to help you create those personal connections, which occur with in-person meetings. And then our next Young Professionals Coffee and Conversation is also a virtual event, and that's going to be on Friday, June 12th, also from 8 until 9 with those breakout rooms that I just mentioned. And then we are still planning for business after hours and other networking and educational events. So watch for information in our upcoming e-blasts. I'd like to thank everyone who joined us today, and of course, our special guest today, Mayor Magnus. We have so much to look forward to, and I'm really excited that I had this opportunity to personally connect with you and reach out to others. And then also want to welcome you. If you have any questions or comments, as always, reach out to our Executive Director of the Chamber, Sherry Sansala, who works tirelessly, she and Chris, behind the scenes to deliver what it is that the Chamber can do for you. So have a great day, everyone.